Today I'm going to show you how I built my Coil BB gun. So I started out with a disposable camera from Walgreens, and this is a full one. I bought about 3 of them just in case, but I only ended up using 2 of them. So this is a full one, and when you take the cover off, it looks like this, with a PCB board like this inside, and the capacitor have actually been bent more like that. And here's the capacitor. Here is the 2 wires that when you click the top button to take the picture, it clicks these 2 together. Here's the charge button on it, and it has a ready light actually on these. You can see here it kind of pops up. So that lights up the ready light, and the battery goes here. I'm missing one half of it. I accidentally ripped off, but that's where the battery goes, AAA. Alright, so once you've opened up the disposable camera, you've taken the PCB board out, and you should take out the battery first and discharge it. Just get a flathead screwdriver, and right about under the capacitor where it connects, just touch the top of it, and you'll see a spark. You don't want to shock yourself. So once you do that, you should bend the capacitor out so it's straight. It bends pretty easily. Alright, so you have your PCB board here. Next, I took a barrel. This one's metal, but I ended up using a Bic pen, and I just hollowed it out. So metals don't work, they mess with the magnetic field. So take the Bic pen, wrap it with duct tape here, and then leave about 1 inch in the middle for your coil or so. And depending on how much coil you use, I used a lot. And then wrap the other end of that with duct tape, leaving a little bit of the front of the barrel for shooting purposes. Then take this and get magnetic wire. I got this at a Radio Shack. It's pretty cheap. There's a roll of it. Mine was red. Looked like this. And what I did first was, when you're wrapping it, you want to leave about that much along this edge of the barrel. Just put it right there, and just start wrapping it around. Try to do it as nicely as possible. And at the end, leave another bit hanging out here. And then get, I used a razor blade, but just scrape the insulation plastic off it so that copper shows, or else it won't work when you try to connect it. The current won't run through it all the way. Alright, so you got your barrel, you got your PCB board. Once you do that, I also bought a button at Radio Shack. It's like $3, and it looks like this. It's just a little black button on the top. It has the 2 connectors for your wiring. Okay, so once you connect it, you press the button, it connects the 2 wires, impulse together, and it shoots a BB. Alright, so once you got your barrel, and you have your 2 ends of your barrel, here's mine. And what I did here was, I wrapped it with the red magnetic wire about 20 feet or so, and I left the 2 ends that I told you to do earlier, one end and the other one. So the first end I took, and I put it up through the top of this box here, into that, through that little hole, and then with the stripped end, I wrapped it around the button, around the first little hook here. With the stripped end, it wouldn't work if you just did the insulated end, so you have to strip it first, so it's just copper. And so that end was done. That's connected directly to the barrel, okay? And the other end of the wire coming off the barrel, it runs through to where I put the PCB board at. And PCB board was what we saw earlier. I duct taped it on, but what I did was I took that wire from the barrel and I connected it to the positive side of the capacitor, as you can see there. It's just it's the left, or the very left end of the capacitor. And I wrapped it around with the stripped end, where it's only copper. I wrapped it around the positive end of the capacitor. Then you take another piece of wire, wrap it around the negative piece of the capacitor, so the inside one. So you have one on the outside, one on the inside. Strip it, wrap it around that side of the capacitor, and run it through and up to the other side of the button. Put a hole in the box, run up to the button, strip the end, wrap it around. So now you have both wires connected to the button at once, and then you put your battery back in, your PCB board, Try to make sure it's stable, so because the battery will fall out without a case in it. And with this PCB board, you have a charge light. Took me a while to do it, but you can actually push that down, and you'll hear it start to charge up. And when it's charged, you'll see underneath it, with the camera I had, this red light starts growing a little bigger, as you can see, and that's the ready light on the camera, and that's how we know it's charged and ready to go. I held it for a little bit longer. Then, since the current's already in there, the voltage is ready to go. You have this, you hit the button, and it would shoot. Obviously I didn't put a beam in there because it's aimed at my computer. So the way that I demonstrated this was with my schematics board. I drew it out. There we go. There's the coil, there's the duct tape, and you wrap the coil around. There's a barrel. I put a plunger in the back. It was a lollipop stick, but I put it in the back to adjust how far in the BB was. I wanted it to be right there where the coil starts. So I used the duct tape there, and you take the positive end of the wire, you strip the end of it, and you wrap it around the first hook and the button. Then you take the negative end of the wire. You can make any one of those two pieces of the wire hanging off the barrel. The positive or the negative is up to you. Usually you want the negative to be a little longer because it's going to be traveling a little bit further than a button, but it depends on your design. So when you take the negative wire, run it to the capacitor, and connect it to the first part of the capacitor here. Wrap it around with the stripped version of the wire. Then you take another piece of wire, wrap it around the other side of the capacitor, run it through to the button. So both of the wires that connect to the button are going to be positive, and this one's going to be negative. What the button does is connect those two, completes the circuit, and allows for the pulse to travel through the coil and push magnetically the BB free of the barrel. So it's my schematics. You see I have a AAA battery. I tried it with a AA, but it wouldn't really fit. And the capacitor, if you wanted, you could build using bigger capacitors and more batteries or cells, or even a DC outlet with a transistor, but that's pretty hard to do. It takes a lot of free time. So yeah, that's how I built my BB gun made out of coil.